So yeah, I know this video, it's about a week since the NFL draft has happened in Detroit. So I decided now after a week, I would go ahead and give my video on my experience at the 2024 NFL draft. Of course, as everyone knows, I was at the draft last weekend in Detroit, which was the first time I ever gone to an NFL draft, which was a very fun experience. It was very fun experience for me going to the draft. Of course, I had 3 vlogs from my weekend during the draft since I went for all 3 days of the draft. So I got 3 vlogs out. Of course, if you haven't checked them out, make sure you go over and check those out too. So yeah, overall, it was a fun experience going to the draft. I really didn't get anything in terms of merch or anything. Like, the only real merch I got at the draft, like, I got, like, this thing from the fucking Lions thing, which was just this giant fold-out one Pride banner. And, of course, the other, which I showed in the vlog for day 3, was the Dan Campbell Fortune thing. It was very packed, it was very packed all 3 days. It was very packed when you break the attendance record for the draft. So, yeah, it was a very fun experience. My time there, I'll say right here, my time there, there was, no fighting, no politics, no bullshit. Everybody got along. It didn't matter if you were a fan of a division rival or not. Everybody was getting along. Everybody was having a good time. It was a very fun time, Detroit really hit it out of the park with the experience here. It was very good experience. There were no incidents at the draft when I was there. It was a very good time. Even the cops that were at the draft were taking photos with fans and everybody. It was just a great experience overall, a lot of great things happened. There were a lot of long lineups for a lot of things, for the Lombardi Trophy, the Super Bowl rings, the one draft stage thing I did on Friday. And of course, there was also big lines for the Lions experience as well in the NFL fan gallery, which I did all the other things on Saturday for the vlogs. And of course, mainly because the Lions weren't going to be picked until later on in the draft, that was before the Brad Holmes decided to cook and trade up twice in the 4th round. So yeah. But yeah, it was a still fun experience. Got to experience everything, got to see everything. Even though most of the stuff I saw there from the fan gallery, the Lombardi trophies, and the Super Bowl rings, I saw most of that already when I took a family vacation back in 2015 to the to the Pro Football Hall of Fame down in Canton, Ohio. But it's good to see that all again. Even some of the newer stuff there that I haven't seen in the Hall of Fame yet. So yeah, it was a pretty good experience. There were a lot of long lineups for all of that though. For most of the lineups there, with how packed it was, you were waiting anywhere between 30 minutes to maybe an hour to do a lot of the things there. But yeah, there was a lot to do at the draft for sure. They even had all 32 teams' jersey uniforms on display, which there were long lineups for it, especially the Lions one. Even had all 32 helmets on display, which there are long lineups for that too, especially the Lions one. The Lions one easily had the longest lineup out of all of them, even for the countdown clock as well. Even a lot of fans have been asking me questions about my Lions tribal chain, asking where I get that chain. Even a couple fans tried to buy mine off of me, and I told them, no, mine's not for sale. So yeah, it was a fun time, though, overall. Especially breaking the attendance record, got to be part of history, too, If anyone wondering, I did actually try Mom's Spaghetti on Friday for day 2 of the draft. First time I actually had M&M's Mom's Spaghetti, which it's spaghetti. It's good. It's alright. It was still pretty good, too. It was alright. But yeah, it was just a fun time overall at the draft. Glad to experience it, the only lineups I've seen that weren't as long was one of the food stations not far from the entry 3 for a lot of the other areas too. The Mom's Spaghetti line was extremely long because everyone wanted to try. Yeah, I think it was everyone wanting to try Mom's Spaghetti for the first time. Plus it's M&M in Detroit, so it makes sense. But yeah, hell, even day 3 of the draft, I was able to get front row right by the stage, which that was cool to see. I was able to get front row for it, especially with how packed it was, just trying to get there. Like, and the weather was really good the first 3 days too. Even though day 1 it was a lot colder for day 1, but day 2 and 3 was pretty good weather. Even though day 3 did start off with a little rain, but by the end of it, it was like the sun was out, and it was a great time. But yeah, I had a fun time at the draft. If anyone wants to know about the draft, well, and because a couple people have asked how much did it cost for it. Well, that's the neat part. The draft was a free entry. It was free entry, open to the public. Like, the only thing I paid for, other than food and drinks and all that, was I only paid for parking, which was like $40 a day at one of the parking lots just a couple blocks down. Because there was some parking was like all over the fucking place in terms of price. And like there was some lots charging $95 to $100, which is like, Jesus Christ. I believe that like one parking lot I ordered that I reserved when me and Space Mel Ferrari 248 went to the IndyCar race in Detroit last year. The lot I ordered for that weekend with Space Metal, that lot cost $25 last year for the IndyCar race in Detroit last year. For the draft this year, that lot was asking for $95. That's almost a $70 difference, which that was fucking nuts. It's like, Jesus Christ, $95 for a lot that I paid $25 for last June. Damn. But the lot I was able to reserve a spot at, like, it was about a couple blocks down. Like, it was, like, pretty good walking distance. About maybe 5 minutes walking distance to the draft area. You know, it was a pretty fun experience overall. I'll say this, though. NFL was not ready day 1 for how many people show up to the draft. Like, when I got there for day 2 of the draft, there was actually a lot more porta potties around the whole draft site area on day 2 than there was day 1. Because a lot of porta potties areas I saw on day 2 weren't there day 1. And if anyone's wondering, yes, it was true. They did have to shut the gates down on day 1 because how many people showed up. They had to close entry because of how many people showed up, because the NFL was now ready for almost 300,000 fucking people. I know the number was 275,000, but what's the difference? There was a lot of people there. Like, I'll be honest, like, day 1 when Detroit traded up on the clock, from 29 to 24, trading up with the Cowboys to jump ahead of Green Bay to take Terry and Arnold. That was, like, the loudest reaction I ever heard. Because we were all just chilling there because we were all watching Dallas, the clock melt down to get to the last minute. We're like, damn, Jerry Jones sure is milking the shit out of this thing. And then all of a sudden they said Dallas trade the pick, Detroit's on the clock. We're like, oh, shit. Like, I kid you not, I've heard that there were people, like, outside of a couple bar areas at one point, and when they all heard Detroit traded up, they all immediately ran away from the bar areas and ran right over to the draft stage to see Detroit on the clock. And yes, the Terry and Arnold pick reaction, that was as loud as y'all heard it was. One of the loudest pops you'll ever hear in the 313 for the foreseeable future. Like, that crowd reaction was so loud, you could probably hear it from 5 miles away. Like, it was crazy how loud that was. But yeah, overall, fun experience. I would recommend it for sure. If anyone ever gets a chance to attend the draft in the future, go for it. I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. You should definitely experience it when you have the chance. Would I do the draft ever again? I would in the future if the right opportunity presents itself. It won't be next year. I'm not going to go up to Green Bay for the draft next year. I mean, if the draft ever went to, say, the likes of Indianapolis or Cleveland or Cincinnati, I only say Cleveland because Cleveland really didn't get a fair shot in 2021 because of the pandemic restrictions. But I mean, if Cleveland ever got another fair shot again, I would go there. I would go to the draft in Cleveland. I mean, if it went to Indy, Cleveland, Cincinnati, or even Buffalo, if it went to one of those 4, I would go to the draft for sure. I mean, if the draft ever went to Boston, I'd probably go up there because I'd probably get invited by Space Mel Ferrari 248. But I mean, if that ever happened, I'd probably go to one in Boston too, because I'd most likely be going with Space Mel Ferrari 248. But yeah, I mean, I would do the draft again if it ends up in the right place. Like, I think it's gonna be a while before the draft ever comes back to Detroit. even though Detroit shattered all attendance records for the draft, the NFL said that they want to give every city in the league a chance to host the draft. So, it may take 20 years for the draft to return to Detroit. Which, hey, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that as long as everybody else gets their fair shot at hosting a draft. Maybe Cleveland gets another fair shot in the future too, with no pandemic restrictions. But yeah, in terms of other drafts, sports drafts, I don't know if we'll see any other sports drafts. And I think out of NHL, NBA, and MLB, I don't see the NBA coming to Detroit for the draft anytime soon. Because I think the NBA draft is locked in Brooklyn at Barclays Center. And baseball and the baseball draft, it's usually hosted on All-Star Weekend. Like, out of the other three leagues, the only one I could ever see a draft coming to Detroit for is NHL. Like, I could see the NHL draft coming to Detroit. I mean, the draft has to come to Detroit at some point. Because Detroit's fucking hockey town. Like, you can't have a draft not be hosted in hockey town. And for what I know, the NHL draft is free and open to the public as well. Maybe for Detroit, based on attendance numbers, maybe don't have it at Little Caesars Arena. Maybe shut down downtown like you did and do it that way. I mean, if they do it that way, then the attendance records will get shattered for the NHL draft, of course. But the NHL draft is like only 2 days. But mainly only everybody gives a fuck about day one, though, of the NHL draft. But yeah, overall, though, it was a fun experience at the draft. It was packed all 3 days. It was very packed. And I'll be honest, out of everybody in attendance for the draft, at least 75% of the people, I'd say anywhere between 75 to 80% of the people in attendance were Lions fans. Like, it was a massive sea of Honolulu blue everywhere. Like, it is the biggest sea of Honolulu blue Lions fans you'll ever see in Detroit. But I mean, at the same time, is it surprising that Detroit showed up the way it did? Not really surprising. I mean, if you look back at some of the photos from the Red Wings Stanley Cup parades, or the Pistons Championship parade back in 2004, like, there were a shitload of people at those fucking parades. Like, hell, there were so many people at those parades, the city effectively was shut down for the day. Like, I'll say this here. If you think 775,000 people attending the draft over a 3-day span in Detroit, if you think that was nuts, just imagine how nuts it will be if the Lions win a Super Bowl. Like, if the Lions win a Super Bowl, nobody's getting in the city the day of the parade. Like, the city's shut down for the day if the Lions win a Super Bowl. And most likely, depending on some of the NFL rumors, the Super Bowl could become a holiday in the future, since there's rumors about the Super Bowl being moved to President's Day weekend, which would be at the expense of NASCAR's Daytona 500. But, well, that's a topic for another day. That's a topic I'll talk about for another day. But hey, for the longest time, we've all said the Super Bowl should be a holiday, and well, it could be becoming a holiday in the future. Time will tell there. Because I don't think they can move it yet because of the NFL's current CBA. So, yeah, I don't think it will go to President's Day weekend just yet until, like, maybe 2032 when the old CBA expires and the new one comes in. But yeah, overall, I give the experience a 10 out of 10. I would highly recommend it. If the draft ever comes to your city or your neck of the woods, I would recommend going. I mean, it's a free event. Take advantage of it. Like, the only thing you're paying for at the draft is parking and any merch you want to buy there and any food or drinks you want to buy at the draft experience too. Like, highly recommend. It's also pretty clean though, except a lot of the garbage cans did overflow. Which, hey, that's more of a nitpick if anything. But overall, really solid experience. I liked it too. But yeah, that's my experience at the 2024 NFL Draft. Even, I thought I'd just explain in a video in person if the vlogs didn't do enough justice explaining it. Just a great weekend overall, great weather all 3 days, just a great atmosphere to be a part of, and to be a part of NFL history being made. But yeah, that wraps it up here. I do got one more draft-related video I'm going to do, and it's going to be revisiting a certain NFL draft class. which that will be coming up pretty soon. But other than that, not much other content here. Like next Lions content video I'm most likely going to be doing is when the schedule comes out and doing the schedule predictions. But other than that, not much Lions and NFL content from here on out until August when preseason starts. But yeah, anyway though, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I gotta say. Detroit sports recaps return this Sunday for the Tigers. But anyway, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I gotta say, and I'll see you all whatever I make next. I'm out.